It's a Guy Jeans podcast.
My guest today is Jay Garstecki, and he is a board member of TakeAVetFishing.org and OperationHealingHeroes.org. These organizations are nonprofit organizations that take vets fishing and help them through fishing with their PTSD and stuff like that. So it's a great podcast. We're going to learn all about these great organizations and what they do. Also learn about what it takes to do a nonprofit and have a nonprofit, that sort of thing. So here's my next guest, Jay Garstecki. Hi, Jay. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Guy?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for being on my podcast and sharing everything.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell me about what you do and who you are.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So I guess I'll start out with I started a couple different nonprofits that support our U.S. military veterans and their family members who are struggling with post-traumatic stress. So the first nonprofit that I co-founded with another veteran is called Take a Vet Fishing, and we do exactly that. We take U.S. military veterans that have post-traumatic stress out fishing as a form of therapy. And so we do 9 events a year, 2 of them in Florida, 1 in Illinois, 2 in Wisconsin. It's going to be 3 in Minnesota and 1 in Michigan. And each one of those events, we feature anywhere from 40 or 50 veterans up to about 75 veterans. And we take them out fishing from like 7 in the morning to 11 in the morning. Our guide boat captains are people who own a boat who are willing to donate, 4 hours of their time and their boat and their gas and the wear and tear on their truck or their vehicles. But basically they're volunteers who volunteer to take our U.S. military veterans out fishing for a few hours. It's not a tournament. There's no fees or anything that's associated with it. It's all 100% free to our veterans. If the veteran is driving from more than 60 miles away to attend the event, we put them up in a hotel the night before and we pay for it so that they can get a good night's sleep, because we do start out kind of early. But yeah, it gives them the ability. We have some veterans that are avid fishermen to veterans who have never held a fishing pole in their life, right? And just want to get out and maybe try it for the first time. But what we do is we pair veterans with other veterans on a guide boat, let them go out and, like I said, just enjoy what nature's given to us, right? And so it's really cool to be able to allow these vets to get out on the water and experience what a day of fishing is like. And then at noon, we bring them off the water. We post the flags, we say a short prayer, and then we feed not only our veterans and our guide boat captains, but volunteers, and our veterans are allowed to bring any friends or family members that they'd like to the honor ceremony. So we feed everybody, and we wind up anywhere between 200 and 450 people at an event. But we feed everybody, and then at 1:30 we start an honor ceremony where we recognize every veteran in attendance. We raffle off some prizes and some gifts, and then it's done by 3:00, and it's called a Day of Giving Back. And like I said, we do about 9 of those a year. So
wow,
pretty cool stuff.
Wow, that's pretty awesome, man. So what does it do for the vets? The fishing and being out there on the water. What is it that they are experiencing when they're out there and stuff?
I want to be clear. I personally am not a veteran. My grandfather served in World War II. He was on the beaches of Omaha, on Omaha Beach in Normandy, and survived to tell about it. My dad was a Marine. My brother is a Marine, and I never got to serve. So for me, it's my way of being able to kind of give back to our military community and say thank you for your service. But I can tell you what being out on the water does for me, right? And it's so, we've all experienced it. It's just, if you've gone out in the water early mornings, it's calm, it's serene. It has a form of relaxation to it. And then in addition to that, there was a study that was done in 2003 that talks about the profound effects that fishing has on post-traumatic stress. And really what it says is that when fishermen are fishing or when these veterans are fishing, they're not thinking about their PTS.
Right.
And so it literally frees them up a little while and gives them a little bit of relief and freedom. And so if we can, my motto is, if we can make tomorrow better than today for our veterans, wouldn't we want to do it? You know what I mean? That's really kind of the way I've been.
So when they go out there, are they talking about some of the stuff that they go through, or are they just kind of fishing and forgetting about it, or are they kind of? Yeah,
with Take a Vet Fishing, it's about getting them out on the water, either like I said, introducing them to fishing or just allowing them to enjoy what fishing has to offer. Yeah. If those two veterans want to share stories, maybe they're both Vietnam era veterans or something, and they want to compare stories, they're more than welcome to do so. They're not asked to do that. It's not about decompressing and things like that. That's kind of where Operation Healing Heroes comes in.
Okay.
So my secondary foundation or nonprofit that I started in 2015 is called Operation Healing Heroes Foundation. It's a nonprofit where we document the lives of our U.S. military veterans one story at a time. It's a television show on Discovery Channel where each episode we feature a different U.S. military veteran and we document their life the way they remember living it. So what was life like growing up? What led you into the military? What was military life like? And what's life like after the military? And it's literally just a small snippet of their life that their family will be able to keep and cherish forever. Mm-hmm. But it's also a snippet where it kind of shows the American people the sacrifices that some of these men and women have made for our freedom, right? So, not everybody that goes into the military is at the tip of the spear in combat, but many of them have sacrificed, being away from their families and their kids and that type of thing. And so it's important that we recognize, again, the sacrifices that these men and women have made so that we get to go out and enjoy and be free every single day.
There's some other nonprofits out there doing stuff as well with fishing, right?
There are. Yeah. There's so many of them, and it's great.
It is. And not only just vets, but also women that are going through cancer and stuff like that. I've seen Casting for Recovery, I think it's called. They help women through fishing as well. I think it's fly fishing. And there's something about that fishing and being out there and just being with nature that definitely heals for sure, huh?
It really does. It has a great calming effect on you, and it really can help heal the hero. It can. I mean, if you allow it to do what it can do, it can really be effective. And so it's a true honor to be able to just, say thank you for your service, take them out for a great day of fishing, feed them and recognize them for their service. Many of these men and women have never been recognized for their service. So if we can just say thank you, it's absolutely worth it.
The stuff that they have gone through is unimaginable. And,
it is.
And for us over here, we have no idea that they're going through all that over there. We're just over here, living our lives, and they're over there, doing what they're doing and going through hell, basically.
No, you're absolutely right. And I guess if you've never left this country, and this isn't political by any means, but if you've never left this country, you just don't know how good we have it, right? And I'm 100% to blame, just like everybody else, right? We live this rat race called life, where we get up and we, if you're a student, you go to school and you do your homework and you eat and you go to sleep and you get up the next day and you do it again. Or we get up and go to work, and then we run the kids all over to practices and to sports or whatever, and then and then you get down and you sit on the couch for 5 minutes and you fall asleep, and then you go to bed and you get up the next day and you do it again. Well, we take that for granted, and that is a privilege. It really is. And if you don't understand that, travel to another country where you're not free and you don't have the ability to do those things. I mean, I always say that we half jokingly complain about having to get up and go to work or go to school or do the things that I don't know, that we complain about, but the reality is that's a privilege to us. And so what would it be like if you didn't have that privilege to be able to do those things? And that's the privilege that these men and women have provided for us and continue to provide for us, every single day of our life.
When you started these nonprofits, did you have any idea that they would get this big?
I really didn't.
It's
if I'm
crazy.
being completely honest. Yeah. It's funny but I always believe when you do good things, right, God provides, and people, you surround yourself with people who are better than you.
Yeah.
That's what I've done. And literally, when I started Take a Vet Fishing, it was one of those things where, I wasn't out to try and take a veteran fishing. I wanted to start a movement to get veterans out on the water, get them out of their basements, right? Get them, put a fishing pole in their hand, and you never know, it could become their new hobby. And maybe they'll meet another veteran through one of our events where they become great friends and they go out fishing together in the future outside of our organization, right? And so that was very important to me, was to try and start a movement to get veterans into the outdoors. And whether it's fishing or camping or hiking, you name it, man, it's beautiful out there. So stay in the outdoors, stay out of your basements, get out into what God's given us and enjoy it. And then to your other point, basically hearing these stories, right? So having started Take a Vet Fishing and doing this throughout the country, you meet some of this country's greatest heroes, these veterans, and you listen to small snippets of their stories, the sacrifices that they've made. And the history books don't teach that stuff, right? So I've got a 19-year-old son who's getting ready to start college here in the fall, and he didn't learn about the individual sacrifices that had been made for our freedom. Of course they teach you about World War II and the Korean War and Vietnam, but they don't teach you about the individual sacrifices. So giving that veteran the ability to tell their story, it's pretty amazing.
Did you get to talk to your grandpa about
No,
Omaha?
I didn't.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, it was one of those things where, like many veterans in that era, right, World War II, Korean War, even Vietnam, they didn't talk about the war when they got back. They raised families, right? They went to work, and then if you tried to talk to them about it, I always said with Grandpa, it was, you better be listening when he talks about it, because he may never talk about it again.
Right.
And really, he was uncomfortable with a lot of questions. And I don't know if it was just his way of coping or what, but they didn't have post-traumatic stress back then. It was called battle fatigue, and they didn't know how to deal with it. And there was no cure for it, right? So it was kind of like press on. And so, unfortunately, before my grandfather passed away, he had Alzheimer's dementia and didn't recognize who I was, didn't know who his kids were, but he talked about the war like it was yesterday. And that's kind of a sad thing, right? Because those were the last memories he had prior to, passing. And that's fairly common, right? My dad just passed away 2 years ago of Alzheimer's, unfortunately. And he, again, the short-term memory is completely gone. It's the long-term memory that they dig up. But at that point, you don't know if what they're speaking is the truth or not, right? And so it was pretty sad, but it was motivation for me to start Operation Healing Heroes, to start documenting the lives of these veterans so that piece of history is preserved, at least for the family and even for Americans, right? To be able to watch and say, man, if I can make a difference in one person's life that watches my show and says, man, I just never sat down and thought about the sacrifices that these men and women have made for my freedom, right? I mean, I never realized that they come home, and even though there's no physical wounds, the mental wounds of war stay with these men and women forever.
For sure.
And there's no real cure for it.
That battle that your grandpa was in, man, that's insane. That was insane. Just like, even like movies, just seeing it in movies and, some of the old clips of it and stuff like that. Unbelievable, huh?
That's it. And he said that it was worse than what they could even show. I mean, literally some of the stories that he did share about piling up dead bodies in front of him so that he didn't get killed. I mean, that's something that no human should ever have to endure.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
And,
and then to come home and be expected to function in society as a normal person, right? After you've done those things and seen those things, it's almost unimaginable. And so that's why I said it. If we could just make a difference in a couple people's lives and make it better, then we as a society, I feel we're obligated to do that.
If somebody wanted to start a nonprofit, how would they go about it? You know, like something like you're doing, how would they go about it and get things going?
So we used a company out of Tennessee called the Foundation Group. I think it's 501c3.org or something like that. We chose to use that company because I didn't have one clue on how to start a nonprofit organization. I spent 26 years in the commercial printing industry, selling commercial printing and sales. And so I did some research online and found that this company called the Foundation Group can help you start your nonprofit. They help you get incorporated. They help you file your paperwork. Of course, there's fees that are associated with it. At the time, I want to say it was around $2,200. But it was worth it because they helped you write the application. So they dotted the I's and crossed the T's, so to speak, so that you get your nonprofit paperwork approved by the IRS and by the government. And so they helped us get both of our nonprofits started. But then from there, it's just about compliance, right? It's about staying in compliance with filing the taxes and doing right by people. That's really what it comes down to.
And do you guys have to get like grants and raise money as well, just to kind of like keep it going, right? Is that how you guys?
Yeah, we do. So it's funny being a nonprofit, and I joke about this because being on Discovery Channel for the last 8 years, people say, "Oh, you're a TV show on Discovery Channel. You must be making millions of dollars, money hand over fist." And if they only knew that behind the scenes, there's 4 of us board members. We literally fight tooth and nail for, and people say, "Oh, I don't want to donate. It's only $20 or it's only $10 that I can afford." They don't understand that money adds up. If you can give $10 and your neighbor gives $10, that's now $20. And it's really important because people think we have millions of dollars of budget, and we absolutely don't. Some of the bigger nonprofits out there, God bless them. I mean, Gary Sinise is doing amazing things for our veterans. He really, really is. And he has a platform that he has the ability to go out there and raise millions of dollars. Unfortunately, we don't have that platform, but Gary is an amazing individual, and he helps small nonprofits like us. And so, but that being said, I just wanted to say that, there's no donation too small, even in-kind donations that literally help our veterans. So you got to start somewhere, right? So you start out basically just, I call it dialing for dollars or asking for money. And it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do, especially in this day and age where it's not as easy to be able to, people don't have a lot of discretionary income anymore. And so it's hard, but there's a lot of great companies out there that want to associate their brands with what we're doing with the veteran community. And so you'll hear me say it a million times, support the companies that support our veterans.
Nice.
We as consumers, we have the ability to choose whether we're going to go to company A or company B, where we're going to spend our money, right? And if I'm going to spend my money with the companies that support our veterans.
Yeah. We have a group out here called Hold the Line, and they're using fly fishing to help first responders.
That's amazing.
That's really cool, man. And they've been doing it for a few years now. And the first responders, they go through a lot too, just the
100%.
right, what they see and stuff. Oh my gosh.
And that's the thing that, a lot of these paramedics and firefighters and police officers, they're constantly reintroducing trauma to the brain. What I mean by that is you don't know if your next call is going to be a battery or domestic violence, or if it's going to be a car crash. And you have to take that stuff home with you every single day. And so it's a struggle. And again, I feel as a society, we need to try and step up and do the best we can to try and help those individuals, because they're out there helping us.
Does the Discovery Channel hook you guys up at all?
They're pretty much just a platform for us to be able to get our information out there. So however, that being said, there's a lot of companies like Great Clips. Great Clips is our primary sponsor, and they silently give more money to veterans organizations than anyone will ever know. On Veterans Day, they do give away free haircuts to veterans, or if you're not a veteran, but you know of a veteran, you could go into any Great Clips salon on Veterans Day and get a coupon that you can give to a veteran for a free haircut anytime between November 11th and the end of the year. So December 31st, a veteran could use that coupon anytime between then and get a free haircut. But more importantly than that, they literally make donations to nonprofit organizations like ours so that we can do our work and do our jobs to help our veterans. And so I guess the most important thing I want to share on your podcast today with your listeners is that, yes, I feel we're doing great things for our veterans and we're hopefully making tomorrow better than today. But more importantly, we, both of our organizations, Take a Vet Fishing and Operation Healing Heroes, pays for the treatment of post-traumatic stress for our veterans and for their family members outside of the VA. So the VA does the best they can, and depending upon what part of the country you live in, there's some very good VAs out there, and there's some that just can't keep up, right? And so if you're one of those veterans who can't get treatment through a VA in your local area and you'd like some additional help, contact us, because we want to help subsidize treatments using other nonprofits, whether it be equine therapy or service dogs or you name it. There's a bunch of them out there that we're affiliated with. We want to be able to try and help pay for that, because I know that it's hard. It's expensive.
When is the show on Discovery?
So it's on right now. It's on Q1, so January through the end of March on Sunday mornings on Discovery Channel. It's 7:30 Eastern Time, a.m.
Okay.
Now, we just had a meeting with Carco TV and Discovery Channel, and they've asked us to go to all 52 weeks. So we may be going to all 52 weeks, and they also asked if we would possibly produce 26 episodes per season, which would be amazing if we could get the funding to do it.
Wow.
Unfortunately, TV is very expensive.
Right.
It really is. I'm not going to lie. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it. I always joke, but we film for 2 complete days for 20 minutes and 45 seconds of television.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's what a half-hour show is. It's 20 minutes and 45 seconds of television, because you got commercials and all the other stuff. But we're hoping to get to that. We're hoping that within the next year or two, we'll be able to produce 26 episodes per season and be on Discovery Channel all 52 weeks instead of only being on for 13 weeks.
Wouldn't that be cool, man? That'd be so cool. How do you guys film? Do you guys have like a full-on crew that you guys hire, or are they part of your crew, or how does that work?
So I hire a company called Keith Anderson Films out of Bartlett, Illinois. Keith he's actually, being completely transparent, he's literally a very good friend of ours. Our kids are best friends. They grew up playing hockey together. I coached his son in hockey, but he does amazing work. He took the vision that I had for Operation Healing Heroes, and he literally executed it. And if you can imagine taking 2 days worth of film that we record and putting it into 20 minutes and 45 seconds of television and creating the story and having it make sense for the viewer, right?
Yeah.
It's an art, and he is amazing. He should be winning awards for it. He's so good.
I watched a couple of your episodes prior to the podcast, and the quality is really good. The editing is fantastic. You can feel the emotion of, the vets and everything. One in particular was a gal who was a vet, and she basically said that you had saved her life. It was really cool.
Yeah, that was Victoria Macri. And if I'm being honest with that particular episode, in this, I think it was 6 or 7 years at that point that I had been filming, it was the first time where I had to ask the film crew to stop filming because I was so filled of emotion. I was upset. I was enraged. I mean, she was, unfortunately, in her childhood, she was a victim of a sexual predator, only to go into the military to have some military sexual trauma done to her. But she's a warrior. I literally texted with her yesterday. She's doing much better. We've been able to get her a lot of help. I don't want to say we've cured her by any means, but we've been able to do many different things for her. We got her what they call TRP therapy, which was extremely helpful with her post-traumatic stress. And then we were able to assist her in getting a service dog. And then we sent her to Saddles and Service for equine therapy. And finally, now she's actually living up in Alexandria or Sauk Center, Minnesota, at a place called The Nest, which is for veterans, and it helps them get back on their feet. And so that's, again, more importantly than documenting the lives of these veterans, is being able to provide help to them after we're done working with them, or after they're willing to be vulnerable and share their story. We need to step up and help them get some treatment after they're willing to share their life story with the world. So
100%. It's
just such an honor. It really is.
Yeah. So are you a fisherman? Obviously, right?
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a buddy and myself got into muskie fishing, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, and then started competing in the PMTT, which is the Pro Muskie Tour. And
no way.
We really enjoyed it. Yeah. And so we love to go out fishing. I'm being perfectly transparent. I just moved from Minnesota down to Florida. Moved here about 2 weeks ago to Florida, and I know nothing about saltwater fishing. So I'm literally starting from scratch. It's a whole nother world down here with saltwater fishing, but I'm really looking forward to learning it because I love learning new things.
Did you fish the boundary waters a lot?
I fished up in Canada quite a bit.
Yeah.
Boundary waters, not so much, but
okay.
We did fish up in Minnesota quite a bit. And then one of our sponsors is called Temple Bay Lodge up on Eagle Lake in Ontario. And we spent a lot of time up on Eagle Lake fishing for walleye and smallmouth bass and muskie up there. And it's God's country, let me tell you.
What's that lodge called?
Beautiful.
What was that lodge?
It's called Temple Bay Lodge on Eagle Lake. And man, I tell you, they do it right. You want to talk about being pampered from a fishing standpoint, right? If you're going to go up to Canada and go fishing, it's my suggestion that you get a guide because it's the boundary waters up there, or the waters up there, are so difficult to navigate. I mean, you can go 100 yards from camp and spin around in a circle and then go, okay, where's camp? I have no idea.
No.
Everything up there, there's not a lot of markers up there. It's all trees and rocks, and it's easily to get lost up there. But the other thing is they don't mark their lakes like we do down here with buoys and stuff. So you could be driving and 3 inches under the water could be a rock the size of two houses. I mean, you know what I mean? You just don't know it. So, but if you're going to spend the money to go to Canada, get a guide and spend your time catching fish. Don't spend it trying to navigate the waters and figure out where the fish are. Those individuals are on the lakes every single day, and they know exactly where the fish are. And then Temple Bay Lodge does an amazing job in the evening. They bring you in after a full day of guided fishing, and they cook you a meal that's to die for.
Nice.
Really, it's a great dinner, and then sit around and have a cocktail or play cards or just enjoy each other's company and get up the next day and do it all over again. So they've got it down right.
So tell me about muskie fishing and your tournament muskie fisherman. How does that work?
Yeah, so fishing the PMTT, the Pro Muskie Tour, it's just starting up again. They're going to be starting, I think, next month or this coming month in Kentucky on Cave Run Lake. But the muskie is basically the apex predator, right? It's the top of the food chain as it relates to freshwater fishing. And so just when you think you got them figured out, they throw a curveball at you, and it's crazy. But they call it the fish of 10,000 casts for a reason. And they're a real difficult fish to catch. It's not something where you're going to go out and catch 10 or 12 of them in a day. You know what I mean? It's not like panfish or bass fishing where you might, you're probably going to go out and hopefully see a few fish and maybe hook into one or two on a great day. That's really the way it comes down to. So it takes a lot of patience. You're using baits that are 6, 8, 10, 12 inches big, long. So it takes a lot of muscle to be able to power those baits out there and then get them through the water. So it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, but it's fun when you hook into one. Let me tell you,
they're big, right?
They're huge. I mean, the trophy now is like 50 inches, right? So if you get a 50 incher, you have it mounted. You let it go. You measure it, get some pictures of it. You let it go, and they've done such a great job now of being able to make replicas. You don't have to kill the fish.
Yeah.
That fish is 20 years old. You don't want to kill it.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, they're amazing and amazing species. So much fun to catch.
So you guys are throwing like big, are you using topwater baits or are big like trout baits kind of a
All the above, yeah.
Really?
I mean, everything from jigging tubes off the bottom to throwing topwater baits that displace enough water that you think a boat's coming through the water. There's a wake behind the bait.
How exciting, man.
Yeah, and bucktails. I mean, you're throwing these bucktails that have double 13 or double 10 blades, so it's like trying to pull a kitchen sink through the water, and you're doing that cast after cast after cast after cast, hoping that the next one is the one that fish bites on. You know what I mean? And the real cool thing about muskies, if you've never done it before, is it's one of the only fish, or the only one that I'm aware of, that will follow your bait to the boat. So you can actually, up in Canada, you're fishing this clear water where, you're bringing the bait back to the boat, and, a foot or two behind the bait, you can see the actual fish coming right behind it, and their nose is just pinned to it. And really weird, you'll take the rod tip and you'll jam it down into the water, and you'll start doing what they call a figure eight or a big circle. And this fish is so fixated on that bait that it doesn't care that the rod is in the water. It doesn't care that you're standing there, that the boat is there. It's got one mission, and that is to eat that bait. And a boat side strike with a muskie, there's nothing like it. It's so much fun to watch that fish open his mouth and hit that bait, and then the fight's on, right? They're still green, and they want to take off with that bait and run, and it's just it's a challenge to be able to get them into the net. So it's a lot of fun.
When you guys are doing the tournament, are you guys measuring them right there and then putting them back, or are you putting them in your live well? Okay.
No, so we have to, basically they've got a great system down where we're taking pictures on what they call a bump board, which is a board that we use to measure them. And they'll tell you that morning, they'll give you stickers, colored dots, and they'll say, okay, today it's a blue dot, a red dot, and a green dot, and you need to put those dots on your bump board so that you can't cheat, right? So you got to take the picture with those dots on your bump board. You don't know what the colors are going to be, or they may say 2 blue dots today and 1 red dot and 2 green dots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to show that, and then you have to do a video of a live release of that fish. That fish has to swim away in order for you to be able to not get docked points, so that you don't kill fish. So they're really making sure from a conservation standpoint that we're handling the fish properly, that we have the right tools to handle these fish. And as a muskie fisherman, and I know I speak for 99.9% of us, there's not one of us that want to kill a fish. We never want to see a fish die. We'll cut our hooks because those hooks will dissolve if they're too deep into the fish's throat or something. But we want to see that fish swim away first and foremost. And so we have all the necessary tools in the boat to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward to make sure that fish swims away. And in the summertime, when the water temps reach 80 degrees or warmer, 99.9% of the muskie fishermen will stop fishing for muskie because there's just not enough oxygen at the top of the water to be able to have that fish fight, bring them in, unhook them, put so much stress on the fish, and then put them back in the water and expect them to swim away. There's just not enough oxygen in the water. And a lot of times, even though that fish swims away within a half hour, they'll go belly up. And we don't want that. I mean, that's that fish is literally what keeps us going. And so we want to make sure we care for them. So as I mentioned, many of the fishermen that I know of won't even fish if that water temp is 78, 79, 80. If that fish doesn't stand a good chance of swimming away, we're not going to fish for them.
Is any other fish considered a trash fish if you guys catch it? Because it's a musky tournament? Oh, dang it, I caught a pike.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, a lot of times we get northern, and sometimes you'll get even some big walleye that'll hit some of these bigger baits. But yeah, when you catch a pike, you're like, you hook up and you don't know if that bait's 50 yards away from the boat. You don't know if that fish is a muskie or if it's a pike. And so they fight similar, but we get them up to the boat and it's like, oh, it's a pike, right? I mean, especially during a tournament, right? Because it's so hard to hook up during a tournament. But but again, you still respect the fish and let it go and live to fight another day. We
have a bass fly fishing tournament up here in the Delta in California, and it's largemouth bass, and we'll catch striper, and we're like, dang, it's a striper. which are super fun to catch. It's still fun.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I was going to say, any other day, if it wasn't a tournament, you would love to catch that fish, right?
Oh, for sure,
on tournament day, it's about trying to get those muskies, and like you said, they inhabitate together. So you're going to be fishing the tops of weeds, and you're going to be and it could be bass. We've caught bass, we've caught walleye, we've caught everything trying to fish for muskie. And it's just, it takes so much to get a bite that when you finally get a bite and you get a fish on and you bring it up to the boat and you realize it's not a muskie, you're like, oh, it just deflates the sails a little.
Okay, so people want to donate to your organizations. Where would they do that at?
You can do it right through our website. So takeavetfishing.org or operationhealingheroes.org, either one of those places. But
awesome.
Yeah, it's, you can donate in many ways too. It's not all just monetary donations. If you wanted to donate your time or if you wanted to help a veteran, we do some chaperones on, like we have pontoon boats where we take out disabled veterans, right? And we need people to go out on that pontoon boat and help them put bait on their hooks or take fish off their hooks or whatever it might be, even if it's just getting on and off the boats, because many of our World War II and Korean War and some of our Vietnam War veterans aren't real stable on their feet, right? So just helping them get in on and off the boats and helping serve food and you name it, there's ways to be able to volunteer at one of our events also. So if you don't have the money and you can't afford to make a monetary donation, log on to the website, and if we're in your area and you can afford to, maybe you can come out and just help. It's a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy it.
Jay, just like that lady said, that you saved her life, you're definitely going to heaven, man.
Oh, thanks, brother. I appreciate that, guy.
Yeah, man. All the stuff you're doing is so great, and you're helping so many people, man. Much appreciated. So cool.
I do appreciate it too, and it's one of those things where, man, you get back tenfold what you give, and I know that sounds so cliche, but if you've ever had the ability to give back to somebody and expect nothing in return, that's when you really find out what this world has to offer you. It really does. I mean, it's pretty amazing because I prefer to give and to see somebody put a smile on somebody's face, man, than it is to receive a gift or to receive something. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? But that being said, we just get so much back when we give. So, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where if you have the ability to make tomorrow better than today for anyone in your life, do it, because it's all worth it.
Nice. I'm going to leave it at that, Jay. Thank you so much for being on my podcast and sharing your story and what you do. Very, very cool. And I hope people out there listen to this podcast and want to help.
Well, Guy, I appreciate your time. Thank you for having me, and thanks for doing this podcast. It's super important.
Thanks,
you cover so much across the gamut on this podcast that it's amazing. So I can't say thank you enough for doing what you do for this fishing community. We appreciate you. Thanks,
buddy. Thanks for saying that.
You got it, man. Take care, and thanks again.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye.
Take care.
It's a Guy Jeans podcast.